National security experts are expressing understandable concern about the Trump administration's handling of classified information after the group chat debacle. As we mentioned, NBC News is reporting that intelligence shared in that chat came from Israel. The Wall Street Journal adds Israel's role in supplying information that helped track the militant highlights the sensitivity of some disclosures in the text and raises questions about the Trump administration's contention that no classified information was shared on the Signal chat, a publicly available non-governmental app. Former CIA director and MSNBC senior national security and intelligence analyst John Brennan joins us now.
Simone, I'll let you have the first bite at that apple.
Director Brennan. These people, and they are these people right now, the most senior intelligence officials in the United States government right now, are saying that Signal comes preloaded on their phones, that it is secure. The Attorney General is like, it's very secure. You used to be the director of the CIA. You had some other jobs. Would you be in a Signal chat talking about a military strike that hasn't happened yet?
Well, there are several things here. First of all, Signal's transmissions are encrypted while they're being transmitted, but they are unencrypted at the endpoints. So if any of these phones had been compromised, if malware had been put on them, including on Jeffrey Goldberg's, our adversaries would have been able to see this prior to the actual military operation taking place. But also, given the feature that was on this phone, this chat, that the messages disappear within a certain period of time, that's a violation of the Federal Records Act. There needs to be documentation of this so that we go back and we look if there was a problem or a mistake or something. But it's clear that they weren't giving this any thought. These jobs are very, very difficult. National Security Advisor, Secretary of Defense, Director of National Intelligence, and so on. That's why you need the experience of people to be able to deal with the issues, because the gravity of these issues and the importance of making sure that you're carrying these things out. And you look at the pros and cons of doing something, but it's clear that they decided to have this Signal chat as a principles discussion ongoing. It wasn't like a cryptic message or a one-off or whatever. So I think there is rightful indignation about what's going on here, including by our foreign partners whose intelligence may have been compromised.
Mr. Director, so you've got that narrative that's unfolding in a very sad way for the intelligence community, given the exposure that this administration has leveled up. But then on the other side, you've got this little thing called Greenland. Could you help just level set for us the whole Greenland situation? Because the reality, how long has Greenland been there? Right? How long has it been where it's been? And the U.S. has kind of dealt with Greenland in NATO, and all of a sudden now it seems to be something we have to grab and own and control. You have the president defending J.D. Vance's call to annex Greenland. Let's listen to this comment.
The president said we have to have Greenland, and I think that we do have to be more serious about the security of Greenland. We can't just ignore this place. We can't just ignore the president's desires, but most importantly, we can't ignore what I said earlier, which is the Russian and Chinese encroachment in Greenland. We have to do more.
I mean, has this become just a recent pressing problem with China, explain to us what's going on here, because all of a sudden, I talk to folks in the barbershop, and they're like, when did Greenland become a problem?
Well, the United States has had a long-standing interest in Greenland for many, many years. In fact, we've had an air base there, and we have been concerned about Greenland as a geographic location that our adversaries could take advantage of, and also in terms of being able to ensure that we understand what's traveling over Greenland, missiles or whatever, to the United States. But what I found J.D. Vance's comment yesterday extremely insulting to one of our best NATO partners, Denmark. Denmark sent 18,000 troops to Afghanistan in the aftermath of 9/11. They lost nearly 36 lives of the soldiers who were fighting with us against our enemy. And for J.D. Vance and Trump and others to be insulting in terms of Denmark's not doing enough, believe me, the Danes are great partners. They would do everything possible, along with our NATO partners, to try to secure Greenland if there's any type of threat or encroachment from Russia or China. But to say that we have to own it, it's ignoring the sovereignty. Greenland is a semi-autonomous region of Denmark. And the Danes take their security responsibilities seriously. But Greenland is a large area, and the United States has for many years been concerned about that, but we can do it in partnership with Denmark. Not saying we're going to steal Denmark, we're going to take it over. That basically is the same justification that Vladimir Putin used to go into Ukraine.
There you go.
We need it for our own security, and therefore we're going to ignore that sovereign border. Right, might makes right, and it doesn't. And I know that the Danes are upset about it, our NATO partners are upset about it, because here's the United States again just flexing its muscles and saying, we want it, and therefore we're going to take it, which is, I find, quite appalling.
The people in Greenland are upset about it. They don't want to be American. They've been saying it.
I mean, they're also just upset in general about colonization, so this would be twice colonized. It struck me in the op-ed from Secretary Clinton that one of the things she talked about vis-a-vis this signal chat is the opportunity cost. Like, what should this administration be focused on instead of the fact they've spent a week dealing with the fallout from the signal chat, defending their use of signal, the fact that they're sending the vice president and his wife to Greenland on some type of conquistador adventure, the fact that they're using the Alien Enemies Act to deport what seem to be non-violent immigrants from this country. If they were actually focused on keeping America safe, where would the emphasis be?
It would not be on trying to explain and defend what happened on Signal Chat, as what usually happens here in Washington when there's a problem. It's the cover-up that's far worse than the initial issue.
Yeah.
You know, and the fact that they are disparaging a respected journalist, Jeffrey Goldberg, and pointing fingers at him. They should have said, mistake, should never have included him on the chat, but also an egregious error as far as using Signal Chat for this type of classified discussion. And we need to be looking at what's going on in Ukraine. We need to continue to try to push for some type of ceasefire resolution of that. We need to be looking at what's happening still in Gaza and in Israel, dealing with China on so many different fronts, whether it be trade or Taiwan or other things, ensuring that we're taking the appropriate steps as far as preventing the reemergence of terrorist groups within, you know, Afghanistan and other areas, and making sure that we're dealing with our southern border in a very, you know, appropriate manner and consistent with our laws. But the fact that they're doing this and they're now saying that, you know, law firms, you know, are going to be stripped of their security clearances, and they're putting the pressure on universities across the board. I mean, these are the things that are so much out of the authoritarian's playbook. It is clear that Donald Trump really wants to have this dictatorial sort of, you know, power.
You know, it's interesting. I haven't thought about the law firm thing in the context of national security.
Yeah, I mean, as you just mentioned that, I'm like, well, how are they stopped? Who stops the government from this authoritarian overreach, like lawless crackdown? Because that's what we're seeing, from our foreign policy to our domestic policy to just, I mean, they tried to take, they're trying to take over the Smithsonian.
Yes.
Who stopped? How are they stopped?
Well, I've been hoping for a long time that some Republicans in Congress are going to find their spines and find ethics and principles, and it's clear that they haven't done that so far. There are some judges, thankfully, that are trying to stop what Trump is doing, seeing that it's very inconsistent with the law. But I must tell you that as long as the White House continues to have the stranglehold over Congress, and that you have people like Speaker Johnson who are just bowing to every whim of Donald Trump, he feels that he's pushing against an open door here. It's only when he's going to get pushed back. And I think the judges are doing that. Thankfully, you know, there's some of these law firms, you know, I find it appalling also that some of these law firms has just capitulated to Donald Trump's whims on this issue. Thankfully, there are some that are pushing back and are now bringing suit against the administration for doing things that are not just, you know, illegal, but also inconsistent with the very foundations of this country, which is that people should have a right to defend themselves. And what Donald Trump is trying to do is to take away that ability and that right by going after the law firms, going after universities that are trying to ensure that students are going to have the ability to express their views, you know, openly and freely. So again, across the board. But you know, here we are, what, 70 days into the Trump administration, you know, and he is running into some obstacles. I'm hoping that there's going to be more obstacles that will be put in his path, and the more mistakes that he makes, maybe this is going to convince some of the Republicans in Congress to really find the principles that they have, quite frankly, buried, you know, during the Trump administration.
I think absent that, though, Director, the real answer lies in Elise Stefanik. What we see playing out with her, that's That's the end game that they don't want to have to play. Voters in districts that they should be winning, they're now losing. And that's the ultimate check in this. At this point, what the voters do at the ballot box in special elections between now and next November, starting this week with the Wisconsin judicial race and the special election races in Congress that kept Elise Stefanik from going to New York. That's it right there.
Director Brennan, we appreciate you. Thank you. There's always a seat for you at our table.
Absolutely.